You're holding it right now, that glass rectangle. It's a black mirror, but it doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your ego. Stop. Think about the last thing you posted, that raw photo, the one where you looked tired, maybe a little sad. You wanted people to see the real you. But how many takes did it take? How many times did you tilt your head to find the perfect angle of misery? You aren't being vulnerable, you're being tactical. We live in a time where being yourself is a full-time job. It's a performance that never ends. You wake up and you aren't a human being. You're a brand manager for a person that doesn't actually exist. You feel that weight in your chest. That's not anxiety. That's the strain of keeping the mask from slipping. Every time you try to be authentic, you move one step further away from the truth. You've become a tourist in your own life, recording the sights instead of seeing them. You are starving for something real, yet you keep feeding the world a script. Let's look at the cost of the show, because the mask is starting to eat the face. Deep in your brain, there's an old program. It's been running for thousands of years. Back then, being cast out meant death. If the tribe didn't like you, you were finished. You'd be left in the cold, alone, waiting for the wolves. Survival wasn't about being true to yourself. It was about being useful. It was about fitting the mold. Fast forward, the wolves are gone. The tribe is now 1 billion people with high-speed internet, but the fear stayed. We call it social standing. Scientists call it status. You call it likes. It's the same currency. We are wired to care what people think because, biologically, our lives depend on it. But something broke. We used to perform for a small group of people who actually knew us. Now we perform for an invisible audience that never sleeps. This is where the authenticity trap begins. In the past, you could be fake at a party and then go home to be yourself. Now home is the party. The camera is always on. The pressure to be real has become a new type of cage. We aren't just trying to look good anymore. We are trying to look like we aren't trying. Think about that. It's a double layer of deception. I just woke up like this. No, you didn't. You spent 20 minutes finding the right light to show off your natural skin. We've entered an era of costly signaling. This is a fancy way of saying we show off our flaws just to prove we have the power to do so. If I show you my mess, I'm telling you I'm so secure that I don't need to hide it. It's a power move, it's a flex. But the cost isn't just time, it's your sanity. When you turn your vulnerability into a tactic, you lose the ability to actually feel it. You become a spectator of your own emotions. You don't cry because you're sad. You cry because the audience expects a breakthrough. We are trade, marking our souls. We are selling the real me to people who don't care about the me at all. They just want the content. And you're happy to give it to them as long as the numbers go up. You think you're winning. You think you're building a community. You're actually just building a museum for a dead person. If the world is a stage and you're always on it, where do you go when you want to stop acting? There is no backstage anymore. The lights are too bright, the audience is too loud, and the script is starting to get very, very complicated. Picture a glass room. Every wall is a window. There are no curtains, no corners to hide in. People are walking by, tapping on the glass, waiting for you to do something, anything. But it can't look like a show. If they catch you looking at them, the spell is broken. You have to look like you're alone while knowing you are being watched by everyone. That is your life now. We call this the panopticon. It's a big word for a simple, cruel idea, a prison where the guard is invisible. You don't know if you're being watched right this second, so you act like you are. All the time, you censor your thoughts, you adjust your posture. You rehearse your spontaneous outbursts. Let's talk about the crying video. You've seen it. Someone hits record, sets the camera down, walks 5 feet away, and then starts sobbing. That isn't grief, that's a production. It's a simulation of a human emotion designed to harvest empathy points. It's the ultimate lie. Why do we do it? Because in the attention economy, perfect is boring. People stopped trusting the airbrushed models. Vulnerability became a currency. And once something becomes a currency, people start printing it in their basements. Look at your morning routine. You don't just drink coffee. You stage the coffee. You find the moody shadow. You want to show the world you are the kind of person who enjoys a quiet, mindful morning, but the act of showing it is the opposite of mindfulness. It's mindfulness. Your mind is full of the audience. You are never alone. Even when you're in the bathroom, you're thinking about how you would describe this moment to a follower. You've internalized the camera. It's behind your eyes now. This creates a specific kind of exhaustion. Psychologists call it cognitive load. It's the brain power you waste trying to manage your image. Imagine running a marathon while also filming yourself, checking the comments, and trying to look like you aren't breathing hard. You're going to collapse. We are losing the private self. This is the part of you that exists when no one is looking. It's the messy, weird, quiet core of who you are. But the private self is dying of starvation. You don't feed it anymore. You feed the public self instead. You give the public self all your best stories, all your deepest fears, all your funniest jokes. What's left? A hollow shell. You go to a concert, you watch the whole thing through a 4-inch screen. You aren't there, you're at the event of being there. You want the proof, not the experience, because if you didn't record it, did it even happen? If no one saw you being happy, are you actually happy? We've become obsessed with curated rawness. We share our struggles, but only the ones that are socially acceptable. So even our truth is a curated selection of lies. We are building a world where everyone is a performer and no one is an audience member. We're all just waiting for our turn to speak. We've turned our lives into a 24-hour reality show where we are the star, the director, and the janitor. It's a heavy mask, it's made of lead, and it's starting to crush your neck. You think you can take it off whenever you want. You think you're still in control. But try it. Try going a week without telling anyone what you're doing. No photos, no updates, no checking in. You'll feel a panic. You'll feel like you're disappearing, because if you aren't being perceived, you don't know how to exist. This is the secret of the modern age. We don't want to be known, we want to be seen, and those two things are worlds apart. Being known is dangerous. It requires someone to see the parts of you that aren't for sale. Being seen is easy, you just have to follow the script. But the script is getting longer, the demands of the audience are getting higher, they want more realness, they want more blood. They want to see you bleed, but it has to be aesthetic blood. And the worst part, you're starting to believe your own performance. You're starting to think the character on the screen is actually you. You've forgotten where the actor ends and the human begins. Here is the twist. You think the problem is that you are lying to others. You think the tragedy is the fake smile or the staged messy room. It's not. The real horror is that the performance is working on you. There is a concept in psychology called self-perception theory. It's simple. It says you don't actually know who you are by looking inward. You figure out who you are by watching your own actions. You observe yourself like a stranger. Your brain is taking notes. It sees the actor. It sees the lighting. It sees the way you wait for the likes before you decide if your day was actually good. And your brain reaches a cold, logical conclusion. I am a fraud. You are conditioning your own mind to believe that your genuine emotions are only valid if they are useful. You've turned your nervous system into a focus group. This is why you feel hollow. This is why, even when you get the praise you craved, it feels like ash in your mouth. You know the you they are praising isn't the one sitting in the chair, it's the avatar. We used to think of the mask as a shield, but in the age of the authentic performance, we've done something truly bizarre. We've started to prune the center to match the mask. If a thought doesn't fit the authentic brand you've created, you don't just hide it, you stop having it. You suppress the parts of your personality that are too complex, too weird, or too off, brand to be understood by a stranger scrolling at 2 a.m. You are streamlining your soul for easier consumption. You are becoming a caricature of yourself. A brand is a logo, a brand is a set of expectations, a brand is static, but a human being is supposed to be a mess of contradictions. You are supposed to change, you are supposed to be hypocritical, confusing, and private. By trying to be consistently authentic, you are killing your ability to grow. You've locked yourself in a cage of your own design. You can't do something out of character because your character is your only source of social income. You've traded your freedom for a steady stream of validation. And here is the most uncomfortable truth. The more real you try to be, the more robotic you become. Realness is effortless. It's what happens when you aren't trying. The second you try to be real, you've introduced a layer of calculation. You've introduced a goal. And goals are for projects, not for people. You've turned your existence into a KPI, a key performance indicator. You are managing your life like a middle manager in a dying paper company. Does that sound like self-realization to you, or does it sound like a slow, quiet surrender? You aren't finding yourself. You're losing the person who was doing the looking. The mask hasn't just replaced your face, it's started to replace your heart, and the scariest part. You're about to find out what happens when the audience gets bored of the character you've sacrificed everything to become. Let's peel back the skin of the system. You think you made a choice, you didn't, you were harvested. We live in a machine that runs on human attention, and attention is a finite resource, it's like oil. The easy stuff, the shiny celebrities, the fake smiles was drilled out years ago. The machine got hungry, it needed deeper wells. It needed the stuff inside your chest. It convinced you that privacy is a sin. It told you that if you aren't sharing, you aren't living. It rebranded secrecy as shame. Now, if you keep a thought to yourself, you feel like you're hoarding. You feel like you're being fake by having a private life. This is the philosophy of the open grave. Everything must be dug up. Everything must be laid out in the sun to rot. In the old world, we had a concept called the inner sanctuary. It was the place in your mind where no one else was allowed, not your parents, not your spouse, not your God. It was the only place you were truly free because it was the only place you weren't being judged. But the modern world hates sanctuaries. It wants data, and feelings are the most valuable data of all. So the system incentivizes the authentic act. It gives you a little hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, every time you sell a piece of your privacy. You post about your breakup, huge engagement. You post about your deepest insecurity, viral. You've been trained like a lab rat to believe that your most painful moments are your most valuable assets. But here is the dark truth. When you sell a secret, it's gone. You can't get it back. Once it's been consumed by the crowd, it loses its power to help you grow. It just becomes a story you tell, a script you repeat. You've traded a piece of your soul for a temporary spike in a graph. This is a systemic failure of the human spirit. We are turning our internal lives into a commodity. A commodity is something you buy and sell, like corn or gold, but humans aren't meant to be commodities. We are meant to be mysteries. When a mystery is solved, it's discarded. When your authenticity is fully mapped and marketed, what is left for you? You are becoming a ghost in your own machine. You watch your public self thrive. You watch the real me version of your persona get thousands of comments saying thank you for being so brave. And you sit there in the dark, feeling more alone than ever, because you know the bravery was just a calculation. You know the honesty was a strategy. You are lonely in a room full of people shouting your name. We've created a society of sincere liars. We aren't lying to cover up a crime. We are lying to prove we are human. We are performing humanity because we've forgotten how to just be human. We've replaced character with content. Character is what you do when no one is looking. Content is what you do because everyone is looking. See the difference? One builds a foundation. The other builds a stage, and stages are built to be torn down once the show is over. The system doesn't care about your self-realization. It doesn't want you to be whole. It wants you to be fragmented. It wants you to stay in a state of productive anxiety, always tweaking the mask, always checking the feedback, always chasing a version of real that is just out of reach. You are a worker in the factory of yourself. You are the boss, the employee, and the product, and the factory never closes for the holidays. You think you're finding your voice. You're actually just learning to mimic the sounds the machine likes to hear. You're singing for your supper, but the food is plastic. How much of you is left? If we turned off the power, if we took away the likes, if we silenced the crowd, would you know what to do with the silence? Or would you just sit there, a silent actor on a dark stage, waiting for a light that's never coming back on? The show is reaching its climax. The audience is leaning in. They want more. They always want more. So here you are, at the end of the script. You have a choice. You can keep polishing the glass. You can keep feeding the machine bits of your heart and calling it transparency. But the price is rising. The strain of the act is making you brittle. You feel it every time you put the phone down and the silence rushes in, that hollow echo. That's the sound of the void where your private self used to live. True self-realization doesn't happen in front of a camera. It doesn't happen in a caption. It happens in the dark, in the moments no one sees. In the thoughts you never share, it's quiet, it's messy, and it is completely, utterly unmarketable. If you want to be real, you have to be willing to be invisible. You have to stop being a brand and start being a person again. It means letting the audience get bored. It means letting the likes fade away. Are you brave enough to be nobody? Most of you aren't. You'll go back to the stage, you'll check the comments on this video, you'll perform your reaction to these words. The show must go on, even if the lead actor is already gone. But what happens when the audience realizes they are just watching other actors, when the whole world is a stage who is left to clap? Next time, we'll look at the empathy parasite. We will dissect why your brain craves the feelings of strangers more than the people in your own house. Turn off the light, the performance is over.